Hey guys, thanks for watching. We're going to be artifact hunting in this video. It's that time of year. The grass is growing nice and green and thick. And if you hunt in places like I hunt, around a lot of fields, well, keeps your coil a good 6-8 inches off the ground. So detecting is pretty much out, unless I'm doing a yard or my tannery spot. But this is also the time of year that gardens get turned over, and that means the opportunity for artifacts. Now, I've already done one hunt, and I know the results of it at a little garden spot that I like to hunt, and I did pretty good. I found some cool stuff. The second half of this video I'm driving to right now, so I don't have a clue what it's going to be like, but I'm going to be sifting dirt for artifacts, and I have very high hopes for it. Let's see what we get on. Alright guys, well check it out. The old lumpy clumpy field has been turned over yet again, and we got a good heavy rain immediately. It's not quite enough to really reveal a ton. That old quartz, it takes a little bit of rain for that stuff, that white, to really start popping through, but it's enough. And I think I've got a really big chunk of blade here. Unless it's a faker, but yeah, that's what I think we're looking at. Look at there. Very nice. Wow. That's nice and thin too. Would have loved to seen the rest of that. All right, well, maybe we can get lucky and spot a few other things. Maybe we can spot a little one in here, but we won't know till we try. Well, all right, we did get a little guy. He was laying right there, but all clumped up in dirt, and I wasn't sure there. To be honest with you, I almost pitched it down a little bit too quick. That's a cool looking little base. You don't see that a ton in quartz. I mean, I guess you do. I don't see a ton of them like that anyway. Very cool. All right, I think we got another blade here. Oh yeah. Broken on both ends, but another nice thin one. That's how most blades come. Snapped and broken. It's all right, I like them though. Well, that's different. Look at the base on that thing. Huh. Double step downs. Or I don't know, maybe they were just working this chunk out. And the guy took one swipe at it right here with a hammerstone, and the whole thing just broke right down the middle. And he said some cuss words in Native American and pitched it. That could be the story. Alright, so that last weird piece came from there. I looked right here. I don't know. There we go. I don't know. Crude dude, but an artifact nonetheless. Alright guys, on my way out, I thought maybe it's the right material anyway. Heck yeah. That's cool. A little more a mountain point. Alright. Well, that's probably it for today, but another rain turns it into another field. The excitement of finding an artifact comes in two waves for me. The initial find and figuring out the function, but then you wash it off and the true art comes out. You gotta appreciate the colors, and what a surprise I got with this blade up at the top. Look at the tip of this thing. I can just imagine the guy making it, stretching this piece out, trying to get into that dark ruby red color, and the little kid in me comes out. Man, if I'm gonna have a wicked looking blade, I want that thing to look like it's dipped in blood. artistry played a definite part in these stone tools, whether it's particular colors or just looking for that crystal clear clarity. I love it. Now, let's go do some sifting. All right, guys, so here is the screen set up. Been going for about 15 minutes. You can see where I'm digging, and man, there's just not much stone coming out of there. In fact, after about 5 loads of dirt on the screen, there's a little piece. I've only found a couple pieces. I actually found more looking around on the ground, but this is what's coming out so far, and it's cool. I do love it. I mean, come on. Ancient art. And this piece right here, I'll have to clean it up to make sure, but you see the little wavy lines? Those may have been made by fingernail indentations. I have to clean it a little better, but they did do that. Of course, the inside is always very smooth. And I found a bullet, believe it or not, a modern bullet casing. So, I'm gonna move to a different spot. I think that has a little bit better material, I think. We'll try it out there. Check out what just came out in the mix. Do you see it? A game stone. Now the question is it a pottery game stone? A stone game stone? I know it's not lead. I can already tell you. That is a pottery game stone. Let's hope it's got design on this side. The last pottery piece I pulled out of here had a bird on it. No bird. Check that out. Ain't that awesome? Man, I love those. I just wish I knew exactly what they were doing with them. I've never had anybody ever give me a definitive, and I'm not sure that a definitive can be given. I've heard them called counter pieces, like they would use them to count. Something sounds a little, I don't know, iffy about that. Seems like it'd just be easy enough to make marks in the dirt, or I don't know, use sticks or something, but I think it's for a game of some sort. Wouldn't it be cool to know what sort of game they were playing? Awesome. All right, I'm gonna get back to it. Well, that is a lot of dirt sifted, and to be honest with you, it's kind of dried up on me. Well, it may not look like it's dried up, but a lot of that came really in the first 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes, a ton of pottery, which is what I expected. But now I'm getting 1 or 2 pieces per load, and that's a little bit slim. I don't know. It's a nice pile of stuff. Maybe the rich stuff is just layered throughout it. I just got to find the right layer. So I ain't got nothing better to do. I'm gonna keep going for a little while. All right, this is some of the pottery that I found sifting that pile. Now, of course, this piece right here is the star of the show, but the rest of it is important as well. I could spend days researching pottery. I don't think there's enough written about it, but there's enough to baffle my mind. And, you know, I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I have picked up a little bit here and there, and I want to share it with you. So when you look at pottery like this, and of course we're in a village site, and it's a plowed field. So this stuff has scattered from one end to the other. It's separated by years. Some of this pottery is definitely older than others. I suspect this might be fairly old. It's nice and thick. It seems like the newer the pottery got, the thinner it got. And a lot of this stuff is very thin. Let's start out here. In this pile, in this circle right here, there are 2 pieces that aren't like the others. And I want to give you a second and see if you can spot it. Now, I think one that kind of jumps out pretty obviously would be this piece. And I want you to look at this. Look at the lines on this piece of pottery. See how bold they are? Well, do you see another piece that's similar to it? Right here. What is really interesting about these two pieces is it's called incised pottery. That means that, you know, they form the pot while it's still wet. They take a stick and literally by hand, they draw the design. And it leaves these just really clear, well-defined grooves on the surface of the pot. It isn't very common in my area at all. It does show up, but predominantly the pottery in my area looks like the rest of this stuff, which is designed using a different method. These two pieces right here being incised pottery, well, it's very, very typical of creek pottery, which comes from South Alabama, South Mississippi, North Florida, in that area. They incised, you know, the majority of their pottery. What's kind of cool about that is, one, it shows the exchange of ideas, but a lot of times those ideas traveled because, you know, the Creeks and the Cherokee, they would war against each other, they would take captives, and there is a possibility, you know, that this pot was decorated by a captive Creek woman. That absolutely happened. And, you know, it may not be. It may just be the exchange of ideas that we see at play. But it's a possibility. But it is not common in Western North Carolina. This, however, is. All of this is called, for the most part, oh boy, I'm drawing a blank. Complicated stamped pottery. That's the term. So they would use paddles, wooden paddles that have designs carved in them. Now, if you were to take a close look at this piece, you're going to see something really cool here. Look right here in between these two ridges. Do you see those little micro lines? You also see them down here at the bottom. I believe you're looking at the grain of wood from the wooden paddle that was used to stamp this. And we know that it was stamped and not drawn because of the way that the lines overlap. If you're trying to draw across one or the other, you know, you're going to break through ridges, but the ridges are seamless, so it's a stamp. And you also see where the design ends here and a new stamp begins right up here, and they do overlap each other. So this was stamped design using, you know, a wooden paddle. Now there is a piece in here that I think was done differently, and I believe it's right here. It's very, very messy, and I wish there were more to this piece, but I believe this was, it's also stamped, but it's not a carved stamp. It's a stamp that's wrapped with cordage, and so what you have is little rope indentations, and I'm throwing up some pictures of what these paddles look like for you guys. Hopefully you understand where I'm coming from a little bit better. Here's another design, kind of a checkered design, and that would have also been stamped. The insides of a lot of these pieces, not all of them, but some of them, you see dark staining, like this. And depending on what the purpose of the pot was, they would burnish the inside of pots. This piece is a good example here. So the inside of the pots would be smoothed with a small stone, and then corn cob or corn husk or even corn silk, something like that, would have been thrown inside the pot while it was red hot from the fire. And that smoke created kind of a waterproofing film or burnish on the inside of the pots. And so it was able to hold water without the clay absorbing any of the liquid. All right, I need to move on. That piece, I called it a game stone in my video, and I have since learned something. This is, according to Mr. Potter, an anthropologist from the University of Alabama, this is called a ceramic discoidal. Now, it is a game stone, but it's not stone. It is, of course, made out of the same material as this. He did a real big study on these things, and what he found is that discoidals, ceramic discoidals in particular, they're scattered everywhere around village sites. So, excuse me, unfortunately, they are often overlooked by archaeologists. In fact, a lot of these discoidals just get grouped in with the rest of that. And they're not identified, or nobody cares to identify them as, particular items that were made for a certain use. Excuse me. That is not Corona, by the way. All right. From the last video, you saw these game pieces made out of lead, and I even have one made out of stone. Now, I thought I was on to something here because these 4 pieces are really close in size. And these 2 pieces are really close in size. And I was thinking, man, we're actually seeing uniformity in the size. So, what sort of game are they playing with these things? Well, turns out that's just happen chance. Sometimes you see things where there isn't anything to see. According to Mr. Potter, after studying a lot of these discoidals, he says there is no real uniformity in size. They weren't following a template in making these things. They just made them, each one for their own particular, little use. And the Native American women, they enjoyed games too, games of chance. And so we don't know, it's lost to history exactly how they were using these pieces. But we know that the men played a game called Chunky. And when we say game stone, that's really what you're talking about. This game of Chunky involved some incredible discoidals made out of polished stone. And so you don't find those very often. And when you do, they're typically, in a nice flat level field where the games would have been played. But these pieces, these tend to just be scattered all around villages in the middle of this stuff. And so they're overlooked, but they shouldn't be because they are an important piece of history. And that was Mr. Potter's argument as well. I'm going to post his little article, or the article that I read about him, because I think some of you guys might be interested in reading about these. I know some of you have probably found these. And I am going to shut up now about pottery. I hope you learned something. I could study this for days and never get tired of it. Let's see. All right, got a few other pieces to show you. Just some grooving around the rims. That was from the last video. I think that's either a handle or a leg to a pot. Some other pots had legs. 2 separate types of rims. You see the rounded type of rim, and you see the flat type of rim. That's all I got for you. Thanks for watching.